Blah, 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 blah. Can you hear me now? Over here now. Okay, come over here. All right, let me know if you can hear me now. I think you should be able to. It looks like we have some little dots. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So, can you hear me now? Yeah, that, all that. All right, I'll set this aside. Charge then. Okay, lovely. So glad. So glad um, that I figured that out. Totally my fault. Like I said, we're still, well, I say like I said, but you wouldn't have heard that now, would you? What I was saying was this is very much new to me, this whole thing using StreamYard. I'm trying to do it because I feel it's going to be a really great way to share a lot of information like this and not just try and flip through screenshots on my phone, which is increasingly difficult when you're trying to share a lot of information, especially. So there's that. I want to go ahead right from the outset and give a little bit of a content warning. Um, Y'all crack me up. A bit of a content warning because we're going to start off by watching um, what it is. You might have been able to tell if you've been here for a second. Is it's these ex-abortionists. These are actually doctors who have performed abortions for many years, a lot of them, and right, right. Well, maybe we'll get some more. I know people don't like this horizontal um, format. I'm not really sure why, but they don't seem to. But I feel like it's a really great way. It's not going to be promoted in the short section, which is like boo, but at the same time, great way to present a whole lot of content, like I said. Um, oh no, I'm sorry, Bob. Well, I don't know. I love you so much, and you know, I'm always so glad to see you. But we're definitely we're gonna be going through a bit of an emotional roller coaster, if you will. I giggle so I don't cry. Honestly, these videos that I'm about to show you. Hi, Barbie. Hello, darling. So glad to see you. Welcome in. Welcome in. Um, these videos are a bit hard to watch. They're hard to stomach. They're not um, abortion footage. They're not aborted fetuses and children and poor babies. I've seen those pictures myself, but that's not what these are. These are just animations that are made off of the somewhat graphic description that these abortionists give um, these people. Right now, we're looking at live actions. Um, Production, and they're greatliveaction.org. They're an absolutely phenomenal pro life organization. Um, so they tell them basically how abortion is performed, and then they animate these short videos to actually give you a representation of what it looks like. But it's not, like a truly graphic ultrasound or video footage of a true ultrasound. It's not it's not that graphic, but it's slightly graphic. So I wanted to go ahead and give a little bit of a content warning. I don't want anybody to kind of stumble in and, you know, be unsuspecting, if we should say that. Um, so I just wanted to go ahead and say that. We're going to start out. What we're going to do is there's a first, second, and third trimester abortion description slash animation. We're going to watch those. We're going to do some information and statistics on abortions. And I actually had some information. I meant to send it to my email so I could actually show it on screen about late term abortions. And I got really worked up about that and spent like 10 minutes thinking about how to best transfer it. And then I remembered we actually already covered that at the end of one of my last lives. Although perhaps late term abortion warrants a whole video of its own. I've been thinking about that just a little bit. But regardless, today we're going to cover the majority of abortions. The most. We're going to talk a little bit about medication abortion, interstate travel, and I'm going to show you an interactive map in case anybody is curious on what the abortion legislation is for your particular area. I'll be able to tell you. And as always, y'all can let me know if this is true, but the links should be in the description. Like I said, this is one of my first times ever going live on StreamYard by myself. I've been a guest, but I've never done the live myself, so I'm getting used to it. I apologize for any hiccups, but I believe the description should have about 10 or 11 links for you guys. So good to see you guys. Welcome in, welcome in. Okay, let's get over here and we'll just go ahead and begin. I don't really have 2 or 3 hours. My goal is about an hour, hour and a half tops. I'd like to make this kind of a one-stop shop for abortion information, facts, statistics, visual representations, something you could send someone if you were trying to change their mind, basically. Is kind of the way that I'm looking at it. So we're going to go ahead and begin with this first trimester abortion as told by an ex-abortionist.
My name is Dr. Beverly McMillan. I'm a board-certified obstetrician-gynecologist with 45 years of experience, and I've completed around 500 abortions. Today, I'm going to explain a first trimester suction D abortion, also called vacuum aspiration abortion. This is typically used up to 14 weeks of pregnancy. When the woman goes to the facility for the abortion, she will lie on a table with her feet in stirrups, and she will be administered local anesthesia. The abortionist will place a speculum like this inside the vagina and open it, allowing the abortionist to see the cervix, the entrance to the uterus. The cervix is grasped with a long metal instrument to stabilize it. A series of metal rods called dilators like these, which increase in thickness, are inserted into the cervix to dilate it, gaining access to the inside of the uterus where the fetus resides. The abortionist then inserts into the uterus a hollow plastic tube with a hole in it called a cannula and attaches it to suction. If the embryo is small enough, the cannula can be attached to a syringe, and manual suction alone will remove the embryo and placenta from the uterus. Otherwise, the cannula will be attached to a suction machine. The suction machine is turned on and the abortionist slowly rotates the cannula inside the uterus. The fetus is rapidly torn to pieces as it is pulled through the cannula and tubing into a large glass bottle, followed by the placenta. Sometimes smaller embryos are pulled through intact. Occasionally, the abortionist must remove the cannula and pull out body parts that have clogged the opening to complete the abortion. Once the abortionist thinks everything has been removed, she will sometimes use a long metal curette to scrape the lining of the uterus to make sure no parts are left behind. An incomplete abortion can cause infection or bleeding. Once the uterus is empty and the bleeding is under control and all the instruments are removed, the abortion is considered complete. But before the patient leaves, the tissue must be examined to make sure the placenta and all the body parts are accounted for. 2 arms, 2 legs, a spine, a skull. The risks of suction abortion include perforation or laceration of the uterus or cervix, potentially damaging intestine, bladder, and nearby blood vessels. Other risks include hemorrhage, infection, and in rare instances, even death. Future pregnancies are also at a greater risk for loss or premature delivery due to abortion-related trauma and injury to the cervix. As I said at the beginning, I used to do abortion. In fact, I helped to open the first abortion clinic in the state of Mississippi in 1975. At that time, I thought abortion was what women needed, and I was totally oblivious to the life of the child. But one day, I looked at the remains of a 12-week-old baby boy that I had just aborted, and I thought to myself, what is the difference between this little boy and my own 4-year-old son? I came to recognize that abortion doesn't just end a pregnancy, it kills an innocent human being. Now I am a pro-life advocate. I am proof that anyone can change, no matter who they are or what they have done. I invite you to join me.
Praise God. Am I right? Or am I right? No matter how many times I watch these types of videos, it always gets me in the heart. And I can't imagine how these people feel. As someone who really was an advocate for all things woke when I was, for a lot of my life, very, very liberal. I have all types of feelings about the things that I promoted then, and I can't imagine if I actually had a hand in all of these things. I'm not saying that they should feel any type of way. I believe there's forgiveness. I feel like there's definitely a lot to be said about the fact that they come forward and speak with the community and become advocates and try to save lives. I think that matters. I think judgment isn't for me to go out anyway, right? I can't imagine. I can't imagine. And hello, by the way, to Mary and Robert. Hello, hello, and welcome. So that is the first trimester abortion, right? That's really as unterrible as it gets. Let's just put it that way. It only gets worse from here. And if you recall, if you were here for our stream where I was kind of debunking Mermaid Ari and all of her nonsense regarding abortion, she tried to tell her audience, while there was thousands of people in her chat and watching on other platforms, that the second one that we're going to watch, the second trimester abortion, doesn't happen anymore in the United States. She said that, that's it's outdated, it's antiquated. We don't do that anymore, and that's completely false. I showed then, when we kind of discussed it, I had shown proof. I had screenshots of the description of it, basically, and sources that date to 2025. It is 1,000% still performed in the United States. Now, given there are a lot more restrictions since Roe versus Wade was overturned, but it absolutely still happens. And the fact that people deny it is crazy to me. Because once again, I will always stand by the fact that we need more truth and more honesty. We need to be able to start in these conversations from a place of, abject truth, undeniable fact, and we can kind of go from there, right? And it's really hard not to get your feelings involved in these types of conversations because they're it's heated topics, it's passionate topics, right? But I feel that it's really important that we can at least have a base of truth. And, I know people like to use super, super graphic photos and videos to change people's minds. I'm not judging that. I feel like, that everybody has their own way, if you will. But I feel like everyone who supports abortion should at least, I really feel like they should all see the photos as well. But I'm a little heartless, I guess, in that way. I definitely feel like they should start with these videos because I feel like you need to have an understanding of what you're actually promoting and what you're actually, um, you know, kind of condoning, if you will. So I think that a base of let's, watch at least these 3 videos would be an amazing start because as I've said 100 times, I actually do feel that most of the people who support abortion are not just killers and heartless and terrible people, just like I wasn't when I supported it once upon a time, right? I feel like they've been lied to and they've been kind of brainwashed, and it's in everything from the way people talk about it to the language that they use, right? They don't call them babies, they say they're fetuses and clumps of cells, and just everything about the language and the conversation around abortion is very much minimizing life that is in fact inside that woman's womb. And so I feel like for all of these reasons, it's really important. So sorry, I feel it's really important that we start from a place of understanding, right? And these are not people who are just advocates just telling you what, what they think or how they feel. These are doctors who have performed these procedures, OBGYNs, who have performed abortions. They are ex-abortionists, and I feel like that's definitely a good place to start, is from their truth, which is in fact the undeniable actual truth as well. This will be the second trimester abortion. If you're new coming in, content warning, it's nothing too graphic, it's simply animations, but trigger warning, it is animations of abortions.
My name is Dr. Thea Altman. I'm a board-certified obstetrician gynecologist with almost 33 years of experience, and I've completed over 500 abortions. Today I'm going to describe a second trimester surgical abortion called dilation and evacuation, or D&E. A D&E is generally performed between 14 and 22 weeks of pregnancy. Before a D&E abortion can be done, The cervix must be dilated slowly over 1 to 2 days with laminaria or a similar product. Laminaria is a type of seaweed that absorbs water and stretches several times its original diameter. When the woman undergoes the evacuation portion of the procedure, she lies on a table with her legs in stirrups. She may be given injections of local anesthetic in the cervix, IV conscious sedation, or general anesthesia. The abortionist uses a speculum to open the vagina and uses an instrument to stabilize the cervix. Metal dilators may be used to further open the cervix if needed. Once the cervix has been stretched open, a cannula attached to suction tubing is placed inside the uterus. The suction machine is then turned on and the amniotic fluid surrounding the fetus is suctioned out. The fetus is too large to fit through the cannula, so he or she must be removed in pieces with a clamp such as this Sofer clamp. A Sofer clamp is made of stainless steel and is about 13 inches long. At the tip, there are rows of teeth for grasping. The abortionist reaches into the uterus with the clamp and tries to grasp an arm or leg. Once the abortionist has a firm grip, she pulls forcefully in order to remove the limb. Piece by piece, the abortionist removes the arms and legs, followed by the head or the body, including the torso and pelvis, along with the intestines, the heart, and the lungs. The placenta is also removed. If the cervix has been overdilated, the body or even the entire fetus may be pulled out intact. Usually, the most difficult part of the procedure is extracting the fetus's head, which at 20 weeks is about the size of a large plum. The abortionist must open the clamp widely to grasp the head, and then crush it so that it will fit through the cervix. The abortionist knows he has crushed the skull when a white substance, the fetus brains, leaks out through the cervix. The abortionist then removes the compressed head. Any remaining limbs, organs, bone fragments, or pieces of placenta not removed with a forceps are removed by scraping the uterine lining with a large curette or by reinserting the suction cannula. The abortionist then reassembles the fetal parts to make sure that there is nothing left inside the uterus, which could cause infection or bleeding. Once all the parts have been accounted for, the bleeding has been controlled, and all the instruments have been removed from the vagina, the abortion is considered complete. For the woman, this procedure carries the risk of major complications, including perforation or laceration of the uterus or cervix, with possible damage to bowel, bladder, or other maternal organs. Infection and hemorrhage can also occur, which can lead to death. Future pregnancies are also at an increased risk for loss or premature delivery due to abortion-related physical trauma and injury to the cervix. As I mentioned at the beginning, I used to perform abortions.
Okay, she goes on part of her story as well, which is
after the birth of my daughter, however,
beautiful. A lot of these people actually find their calling to be activists to stop performing abortions when they have their own children, which is ironic. Although I did see one that actually had 2 abortions herself, which is something else, but not judging, right? Strawberry, hey darling, welcome in. And completely, Dave, that's completely understandable. Here is the thing, right? Everybody that is let's just call it pro-abortion, right, would really like for us to believe that these are not the things that are happening. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a debate where somebody will say, well, during a second trimester abortion, the baby is literally dismembered and its skull is crushed. And the pro-abortionists will say, oh, that's not how it happens. We don't do that type of thing in America. That's barbaric. I completely agree. It is barbaric. It's difficult just to watch an animation of it, right? It's really hard. And I think that feeling that, oh my gosh, what am I watching? This is freaking terrible, is really important, because I feel like if you have that, even just a little bit, how are you going to support abortion in very real life, right? I struggle to always kind of remain contained, to remain, there's a word I'm looking for, just calm when talking about this, because I see abortion for what it is, right? And to see people that shamelessly defend it makes me feel all types of ways, right? And to see people like Ari and Destiny, who have large platforms, come on Al Gore's internet in the year of our Lord 2025 and say with their whole chest, we don't perform D&E abortions in America in 2025. Or this is not how abortions are performed in America in 2025, makes me irate. I can't lie to you because this is the truth of the matter, right? I can at least have some modicum of respect for someone like Destiny who will tell you, sure, it's taken the life of the child, and I don't care. I value the woman, aka mother's autonomy and choice, aka convenience, more than I value that other human life. He understands how this happens. And in the past few years, I feel like he's even gotten a little less pro-choice, aka pro-abortion, but I could be wrong. But I can at least have respect for someone who says, yeah, well, they got to rip off the arms and the legs so that it can't fit through the cannula. Hello, he understands how it happens. He certainly doesn't promote it, but he understands it and he won't lie about it. But then there's people like Ari, this mermaid Ari chick, who go on her platform and say, this is not how it works. This is not how it works at all. But it is. Like, what? Is it so horrific that you can't face it yourself, so that's why you lie to your audience? Like, I just don't understand, right? Bob said he must go. He can't see the third one. I totally understand, Bob. The third one, in some ways is more graphic and in some ways is less. It's certainly not, there is no ripping off of limbs. I think one could argue that the second trimester abortion is actually one of the most barbaric. But it's all barbaric, right? It's just terrible. And I would really like to live in a society where this is unacceptable. It's unthinkable. Everyone wants to talk about making abortion illegal. I would like to make abortion unthinkable. That would be my goal. Reprehensible. Oh, hello, Bobby. They do, Dave. They do. Bobby has an interesting comment here. Hold on. Let me get over to my... Hold on. Let me get back over here. Let me get down here. I gotta scroll back through. Come on. I support pro-choice, but also am against taking life. I believe abortion should be allowed in certain circumstances, but not used as birth control. Hope I'm not out of line. You're never out of line, Bobby Lee. Welcome in. You're never out of line. This is, I call this position soft pro-life. Kind of jokingly, right? I feel like he was also there. I have another friend, y'all might know him. His name is Cho. He's also there, or he was. Hopefully, maybe a little less so since our conversation. Where you definitely don't believe that human life should be taken, no matter how small. However, you also believe in, say, the exceptions, because people have drilled into you for many years that, what about these children who are 10 and 11 years old? They're forced to give birth to their father or their uncle or their grandfather's baby. How horrible is that? Or what about a woman that was raped and she wants to go on to hurt herself because she's carrying her raped child? Even though another great site, by the way, liveaction.org and studentsforlife.org, they're some of the biggest pro-life organizations owned by women, nonprofits. They're wonderful. And they tell a lot of the children of rape, their story. They have a whole series on it. I think both of them do. About how the children of rape feel about being used as an excuse for abortion, basically, as they had a chance at life. And it's very interesting, very compelling. However, I will reiterate, as I have many times, these horrific fringe cases make up, depending on the numbers, recently data says it could be up to 3%. I'll be generous. For many years, we were told it was less than 1%. It was about 0.8 to 0.9% until 2023. So whether it's 0.8 or 9 or 2.8 or 9%, less than 3% of all abortions make up the exceptions. And that's rape, in life of the mother, or fatal fetal anomaly, right? I believe we could start there, because this is one of the biggest points of contention with pro-life, pro-choice, this whole argument, right? I believe we could start there. And I don't even fully support the quote unquote exceptions myself. I'm what I call quote unquote hard pro life, right? However, I think if we outlawed every convenience based abortion, that would be one heck of a place to start. I would be pretty darn happy with that. Right. I I figured that that's what you meant. I figured that that's exactly what you meant. Um, and there's much to be said about the abortions. So glad to see you, Strawberry. There's much to be said about abortions that are for the exceptions. But if we only had the exceptions allowed in America, I would still do an amazing dance of happiness, because that's still over, what would that be? Over 900,000 babies a year that would be saved. It'd be like 970,000. So I would be pretty darn happy. That would be a great start. If it's medically necessary for the sake of the mother or child, it's one thing. If it's because someone spread their legs and don't want to sleep in the bed they made, it's wrong. It's kind of where I'm at. And I agree. And I've been learning more recently about the exception, the quote unquote life of the mother exception, which is on its face really the only one supported for a while now, because I believe that there are certain circumstances where the baby is already doomed, sadly, and is also putting the mother's life in danger. Two examples I've always used have been placental abruption, which is where the placenta abruptly, literally detaches from the womb, and it causes catastrophic hemorrhaging. Even if it happens inside of a hospital, sometimes there's nothing they could do. That's how quickly the mother could bleed out and die, right? And ectopic pregnancy, which is when a fertilized egg, it is indeed a fertilized egg, implants itself somewhere that is not inside the mother's womb and is not therefore meant to be incompatible with life. Say inside a fallopian tube, that's one of the most common. Um, and as the pregnancy grows and the baby grows, it will burst the tube or lining of the cervix or wherever it ends up. Not cervix. Um, I cannot think of the word, not the cervix, but the ovary. There, I'm getting there, okay? It'll burst wherever it's implanted that it's not meant to be, um, or have an abruption. It wouldn't be a complete placental abruption from the inside of the womb, but it would be from whatever it's stuck to, basically, because as it grows, it's not meant to be supported there. However, I've been told by much smarter, much more experienced pro-lifers than myself that neither of these cases are even truly considered an abortion. It is considered actual health care, like they try to say that abortion is. It's a completely different procedure. You don't use these same procedures. In an ectopic pregnancy, you actually have to do a full stomach opening surgery and go inside of the fallopian tube or wherever it is. And usually, because of ectopic pregnancy, the woman loses part of her fallopian tube and possibly could not have children the rest of her life from this one horrible circumstance. Yep, we agree. We are agreeing. Service would kill, right, and would kill mom anyway. Right, exactly, Bob. And that's what I mean. And in that situation, oh my gosh, Mary, I am so sorry to hear that. And see, that's the thing. A lot of people that are pro-life would like to deny that ectopic pregnancy is indeed a thing, and I don't know where that gets us. Right? I don't feel like that's very helpful or intellectually honest. Ectopic pregnancy is definitely a thing that happens, and from what I understand, if they catch it early enough, um, it's you can the procedures can have some correlation with abortion, like the pill abortion, for example. They may give you the mifepristone, etc., but it always requires a surgery, and it's never just killing the child being the goal, right? And something to also remember in both cases, placental abruption and ectopic pregnancy, is once that ectopic pregnancy implants in the wrong place, or once that placenta detaches, in both cases, the baby is doomed. There's no way to save baby, right? There can be many conditions later in pregnancy that develop that can harm mom and or child, right? Unfortunately, there's plenty. However, if we can just get mom to 24 to 26 weeks would be the goal. Babies have been saved as young as 20 and 21 weeks. Not saying that's the norm, but it could happen. If we could get them past that point, we could do a C-section and save both mom and baby, right? That can't really be done in these exceptions because the baby will die regardless, and it continuing to be where it is, not ever going to make it to be a live birth anyway, will harm or possibly kill mom. So in those situations, to me, that's no doubt. As pro-lifers, we don't want women to be harmed or die. It's why so many of us absolutely condemn and speak out against these doctors who negligently refuse to treat their patients when they've already suffered a pregnancy loss because they're so afraid of the pro-life legislation in their areas, places like Texas, right? We completely condemn that because we do not want women harmed. The difference is we protect women all the way to tracing them back all the way to the womb before they're even born, right? My ex-wife had to have a DNC, but it was because the baby had major troubles and it put X and baby at risk. It puts us up, makes me sick. People can just hit the flush button. I completely agree, Dave. I'm so sorry to hear that. I hate to hear that. I'm glad she was okay ultimately. Right, Bob. Right. Oh my gosh, Bobby. I am so sorry. Mary has more info for us. If it's early enough, and depending on the location, they can use methotrexate. That's what I was thinking of. And perform a DNC. I said mifepristone. That's the abortion pill. But most often it requires invasive surgery. Right, right. Bobby, it's not an easy thing to go through. I can't imagine for mom. And there's a heartless POS that thinks it's just a normal old thing and it's okay. It ain't. Completely agree. Completely agree, Dave. It is heartless. 100% Dave, and if I'm being honest, I believe that's what put a wedge in our relationship and why we aren't together anymore. I'm sorry, Bobby. I mean, I feel like that's understandable. Like, it's hard. It's a hard thing to go through. And that brings up another whole issue, which is, well, what about the dad's choice and all this, right? Bobby, such a storm to endure. It hurt our relationship big time, too. Just a tough, horrible thing, to say the least. Absolutely. Absolutely. She was never the same. She seemed to resent me after that. I'm so sorry to hear that, Bobby. I hear this a lot from men who either go through something like that or want, either it's that way, or if the men really want a woman to keep a child and she has an abortion against his wishes, it can be the reverse, right? Which brings up another whole thing, because here we are having 1 million abortions a year in America, and how many men sign on the dotted line to make that happen, right? Should that be a thing? How much weight should their thoughts carry? My opinion, and I know I'm so radical for this, or so people tell me, is hey, why don't we give dad a choice? If he chooses, the woman would have an abortion if she had the choice. Dad says, no, I want to be a father. Then let's treat it like a adoption. Mom can sign her rights away before she even enters the delivery room, right? She can sign her rights away, and therefore all responsibility as well. And then dad can raise baby, and then we don't kill a child. Like, how many babies would we save doing that? Right. Unfortunately, that's what I've seen as well, Dave. I know, Barbie. Our whole community has been through a whole lot. Yes, Mary. We have indeed discussed this. We have indeed. And it's, well, you always know you're safe here, Bobby. and we so appreciate you. And I validate all your feelings on the subject. There's no wrong way to feel about a terrible situation like that, and you are allowed to have feelings about it. I'm really sick and tired of everyone surrounding this whole subject telling men this whole bullshit, no uterus, no say. Are you kidding me right now? Like, do I have to be Jewish to say the Holocaust was horrible? Because here we are, we've lost, I think, 67 million babies since 73. Are you kidding me? No uterus, no choice? Get out of here with that. Now I get to shut the fuck up, as I'm sure most men are made to. It's hard for dad because we're half that baby too. Amen. Amen. That's exactly it. And that's exactly my point. Should you not have a say? Not just in the subject in conversation, but especially with your child. It's your child. How are you going to be denied any say whatsoever if the mom wants to abort? That's crazy. Absolute insanity. $1 million a year. That's right, Bob. That's right. I'm sorry, Bobby. I love you. Thank you for feeling safe enough to share that with us. You know I just adore you. I'm so sorry that happened to you. Any emotional thing like that, all bottled up and tearing you up with no support while everyone is on oh poor mom mode. Right, exactly that. Exactly that. Meanwhile, a lot of these women, not yours in particular, I know there are terrible, terrible tragedies as well, but there's also on the swing side, the flip side, the moms that literally throw abortion parties and get abortion cakes to cut on social media. Like, is that wild or what? That's absolute insanity. $1 million a year. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that really, really crazy to think about? Yeah. Oh, sure. Absolutely, Bobby. And it's like people have a certain type of shame around it and yet don't. Like I feel like it's both extremes. I feel like it's hard to find people that will just openly talk about it honestly, and it's more common to get people who don't say a word or who cut a cake on social media. The middle, which is where all normal people usually fall, is what we hear from the least, right? Right, exactly, Dave. When in fact it's not. I think an embarrassment would be having 2 or 3 or 4 abortions in a calendar year, which 11% of people have. We're going to get to those stats in just a moment. Bob, if you want to step away for literally 2 to 3 minutes, I'm going to do this last video. Right, an abortion party. Right, Bobby. Literally, it happens. I'm going to show this last video here, Bob. It's not as horrible as you might think, but if you're not comfortable, I totally understand. But come back because I have all the facts, all the statistics, and all that will be coming up right after this. So come back to us, Bob. Love
My
you so
name is
much.
Dr. Patty Giebink. I've been a board-certified obstetrician gynecologist for over 25 years, and I've completed thousands of abortions. Today, I'm going to describe induction abortions, generally done from 22 weeks to term at 39 weeks. Because the child is so large and developed, an abortion procedure at this point takes 2 to 3 days to complete. And due to the risks and the need for monitoring, this procedure is generally done in the hospital or a surgery center. On day 1, mifepristone is orally. Mifepristone blocks the pregnancy hormone progesterone, causing the lining of the uterus to degenerate, starving the fetus of vital nutrients and oxygen. Mifepristone alone doesn't necessarily kill the fetus, so fetal demise is often induced beforehand. This is often only done for babies 20 weeks or older. A syringe with a large needle is filled with a drug called digoxin. Digoxin is used to treat heart problems, but an overdose of digoxin will cause fetal cardiac arrest. A long needle is inserted through the woman's abdomen or vagina, and the digoxin is injected into the fluid surrounding the fetus under ultrasound guidance. The fetus doesn't die immediately, which is why this is normally done 1 or 2 days beforehand. For the drug to be more effective, the abortion doctor can also inject the digoxin directly into the fetus, targeting either the body, heart, or umbilical vein. Potassium chloride can also be used to induce fetal demise more immediately. The fetus usually dies within 24 hours of the injection of digoxin. If the fetus doesn't die within 24 hours, the injection can be repeated. Death is normally confirmed by ultrasound before the start of delivery. On day 2, 24 to 36 hours after the mifepristone, the woman is given misoprostol either orally or vaginally, causing her to go into labor. The misoprostol dose can be repeated every 3 hours up to 5 times. Usually, after 24 hours of starting the misoprostol, the woman will vaginally deliver the fetus. If the woman is having trouble delivering, she may be given a synthetic hormone called Pitocin to promote labor. Once the fetus and placenta have been delivered and the bleeding is under control, the abortion is complete. Complication rates increase as the fetus grows. The major complication from induced abortion is incomplete abortion, in which pieces of the fetus and placenta are left behind. This requires surgical intervention. Other complications include cervical laceration, infection, hemorrhage, uterine rupture, and even death. Future pregnancies are also at a greater risk for loss or premature delivery due to abortion-related trauma, including injury to the cervix. The purpose of an elective abortion is to ensure the delivery of a dead fetus. On the other hand, if a baby is wanted and the mother's health is in danger, the obstetrician induces labor or does a C-section and will have a neonatal specialist present to take care of the baby. As I mentioned at the beginning, I used to perform abortions. At the time, I truly believed I was helping women. Over time, however, I realized that abortion doesn't just end a pregnancy, it ends the life of an innocent, unique human being.
Amen. It sure does. Oh, I'm sorry, Bobby. I'm just not seeing your message. Okay. Well, I don't know if you're still here, but I love you when you come back. Yeah. Like I said, it's not quite as graphic in some ways and more graphic in others. It's kind of hard to describe, right? It's not literally being dismembered, but it is, let's shove a needle in your tummy and literally stop your baby's heart, right? And then deliver a dead baby that you intentionally killed, which is crazy because, as I just said, even starting at 20 and 21 weeks, it has in fact happened where babies have been delivered, yes, ma'am, that early and survived. Is it common? No, I'm not saying it is, but it is possible. So if you're already going through that, this is why I don't understand late-term abortion at all, right? If you're already going to go through all that, at 20 weeks and more, you have to deliver that baby, whether it comes out dead or alive. You have to deliver it. So if you're going to be going through that anyway, why in the world would you not at least try and save that baby's life? And we learn, we think that these third trimester abortions are all because there's something wrong with mom, and perhaps some of them are, but it's not. People would like us to believe. I heard a statistic once. Destiny said it. I'll never forget. He said something like 85%, I think he said. 85, something very high, 85 or 90% are for medical distress. And of course, I immediately looked it up, and that's not the case at all. Although I feel like anything above, say, 100% is heartless and horrible. Yes, meow, meow. I'm sure they hear you too. Right. Right, exactly, Mary. Why would you not at that point? And that's when people love to come in and say, "Oh, but life of the mom and even baby could be in danger." Well, great. At 2021 plus weeks, just deliver a live baby. If it's a danger, if it's for whatever case, right? Just deliver that baby alive and let somebody who will love that baby take care of that baby. Because I know our foster system is screwed up, right? We've had this conversation a few times. Foster system super screwed. The adoption system underwhelming, shall we say, right? Twice the number of babies that are offered up for adoption every year, at least in 2023, at least. We don't have numbers yet for 2024. Twice the number of babies that are able to be adopted were people on the waiting list, right? Because there is such a demand in our country for babies, newborns, right? Fresh start, whatever you'd like to call it. Yes, plenty of people foster, but many people want a newborn baby. So much so that there are waiting lists twice as long as the demand, right? And as well as waiting lists for all day, everyday babies. There's even special specialized waiting lists for babies with certain diseases or carry complications or mental illnesses. Um, Either their parents have that, or there are waiting lists for newborn babies with Down syndrome. For whatever reason it might be, awareness, someone able to handle that type of baby and show it love and compassion. There are waiting lists for these babies. People say, what if they're basically quote unquote imperfect, right? Although all babies are perfect. But even if they're in their eyes, quote unquote imperfect, there's a list of people waiting to adopt that baby. I promise. And that's what is insane. Right. There is a multitude of different scenarios that don't end up with you raising the baby you just birthed. 100%, Mary. And you know what? I can't judge a single one of those so long as those women birth those babies, right? Because the alternative would be, for her convenience, she would just kill it in the womb. It's a lot easier to judge a woman for that than it is to judge a woman for saying, you know what, for whatever reason, whatever the reason is, I'm not going to be able to raise this child. So instead of literally murdering it in the womb, I believe I'm just going to give it up for adoption. So much respect for that. Welcome back, Bob. So glad to see you. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. I'm glad that you're back. So that was the abortion first, second, and third trimester, so that we understand exactly what's going on. A lot of people want to deny that these things are happening, and in fact they are. And as I said, the as you can see up here, it's liveaction.org, the company that I mentioned, and if you / what is abortion, that's where you come to that. And there's also all of these resources. There's Q&As as well. It's just a wonderful nonprofit organization. They have lots of they have pregnancy resource centers, as you can see, in every single state. It's amazing. I mean, I can't say enough about them. They're amazing. So we have some exciting news. CareNet has brought us some of the very first 2024 abortion numbers. Now, I believe to come up with this, they must have been going through, there's a monthly abortion report, and there are projections made by the KFF and the Guttmacher Institute. And I think they probably rely on all of those things, because the people that are reporting, like the abortionists, sorry, I couldn't English there for a second. The abortionists, the abortion clinics, hospitals, etc., don't all have to report, right? They don't report every single abortion that happens. And then there's 5 or 6 states that don't report their abortions at all. They're all Democratic states. So the numbers are never perfect. Just assume every number that you hear, as far as the number of abortions, assume that it's very, very low. It's very generous, because we have a minimum of 5 states that do not have to report to these fact gatherers, if you will. So that's something really important to keep in mind as well. They make it exceptionally hard to adopt. There are so many deserving families. The problem can be completely eradicated by simply utilizing different means to place babies. 100%. And I've spoken about that a little bit as well, Mary. It is difficult to adopt, and I don't love that. It's a lot easier to foster. And I'm not in love with that. The whole system needs reform, just like our justice system. I can't disagree with you one bit. It's very sad. And I hate that people deserving cannot more easily get a baby, because it really sucks that you have people that can afford to pay the money that are predators and sickos that can easily get a child, right? But it's hard for good people who aren't millionaires. And that's crazy. We definitely need to change that. That's something that the pro-life movement should be championing. Wow. Championing. My mouth did not form to make that word there for a moment. We championing that cause for 1000% sure. I firmly believe for every unwanted pregnancy, there's someone else on a waiting list for a baby to be placed. We need to figure out what's going on in that in between and fix that. 1000%. Nothing but facts right here, Mary. Nothing but facts. You're a facts machine right now. True story, though. I completely agree. Completely agree. So here, also this PDF, it's a PDF, an 11-page PDF. If you guys are interested on getting all the facts of abortion or sharing it with someone that you know and love or dislike, whatever the case may be, the PDF is in the description. And the summary is that the report includes recent trends concerning abortion in the U.S. First, this number right here. This is so disturbing. From 1973, Roe vs. Wade, to 2020, more than 65. I said 67. I think it might be closer to that. More than 65 million lives have been lost to abortion. While the cumulative abortion numbers will continue to increase, the data reveals the abortion rate has continued to decline, while the percentage of women obtaining medically induced abortions has increased, and many of these are self-managed. This is really, really scary, right? This is exactly what I spoke about on one of my last streams. The medication abortion is becoming so much more popular, and it should terrify all of us. Almost all abortions occur during the first trimester, 94%, at or before 13 weeks. That's good to know. With the overturn of Roe versus Wade, it was expected that abortion rates would decrease. In 2023, it was reported 1,037,000 abortions were conducted in states without bans, an 11% increase since 2020. Revenue for the abortion industry continues to grow. In 2024, the abortion industry is reported to have $4.3 billion in revenue, up almost $1 billion from 2017. Nearly $23.4 million will be profited by Planned Parenthood for abortions in 2024 alone. $23.4 million. Now that's crazy. So since Roe versus Wade was overturned, it gave regulation back to the states, drastic and unprecedented change, more than 50 years. The landscape of the country now displays 14 states with total abortion bans. Some support the travel of women or to self-medicate at home. Some does not. Autonomy have become one of the leading topics of debates against the overturn of Roe versus Wade. And physicians in support of the overturn have much to say. Abortion is not only about autonomy, but also about non-maleficence. In the case of pregnancy, we as physicians have two patients. Abortion sometimes harms the woman. Abortion always ends the life of our second patient. Amen, sister. Amen. Like adopting a dog, everyone wants a puppy. That's so true, Bob. Marriage pretty disgusting. It's human nature. I really think it's a lot about if I can't have my perfect baby. Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, Bob, you're right. You are right. Yeah, it is a good analogy. It sure is. Kind of messed up to think about, but like that's kind of how people think about it, right? It is a good analogy. So we're looking at who's having abortions, why, what the next generation is thinking about abortion, and more. All right. The abortion rate has continued to change alongside the landscape. Most dramatic change was the abortion rate dropped 19% between 2010 and 2019. But the overall pregnancy rate has dropped as well. Approximately 625,978 legally induced abortions were performed in 2021. Unfortunately, being able to obtain accurate data has become increasingly difficult with the increase in access to mail-order abortion medications. There has been a 137% increase in the use of early medication abortions from 2012 to 2021, and even more since then. Since the overturn of Roe versus Wade, there's been a 5% increase in abortions from the data 2020-2021. Unintended pregnancy rates for ages 15 to 19 declined by more than half, 52%. This is also a decrease in pregnancies across racial demographics. The abortion rate in 2023 was 15.9 abortions per 1,000 women, aged 15 to 44. In 2021, abortion rates, the majority of women who have an abortion have one in their early 20s, 57%. 8% of those are between the ages of 13 to 19, with 1 in 3, 31%, by age 30, and about 4% can be accounted for women 40 to 41. 1 in 4, okay, I need y'all to really pay attention to this statistic right here. 1 in 4 women are projected to have an abortion by the age of 45. Given the data seen in 2020, Of the 57% of women who had an abortion in 2021, 24% of them were having their second abortion. 24%. That's almost a quarter. 11% having their third, and 8% had a fourth or more. So for all the people, I had several comments calling me a liar about this, right? For all the people who do not understand, let me make it very clear. This whole abortion is birth control is a myth. It is not. We see that 8% have had 4 or more abortions in 2021, right? This is years ago. It's really hard to get accurate data that's recent, right? We've had this discussion many times. But just in 2021, a quarter had one previously, 11% had 2 or more, and 8% had 3 or more already. That is disgusting. No excuse, no heart, no sympathy, no compassion, no anything for those women. If you have a single abortion, we can talk. If you have 2, I'm side-eyeing you pretty hard. If you have 3, you need to talk to Jesus, because I certainly can't forgive it. And if you have 4 or more, you better run to that church or your bedroom or wherever you need to go to open a Bible and have a serious conversation. That's ridiculous. That is wanting to lay up on your back, get down on your knees, and have a good time and suffer absolutely no consequences for the lack of your responsibility. Like it's really hard in the year of our Lord 2025, or back then 2021, to use contraception. Absolute insanity. I just can't excuse it. I can't abide it. We always respect Bob's opinion. Yeah. It is. I did the math on it, actually. Hold on. Let's do this. We'll do all 3. And it was actually more than 1 million, actually. Hold on. Let me go back. Where'd it go? Right. No, stop it. And here's some of the sources right down here as well. Where did it go? No. Okay, that's where we were in the bottom of. Right there. $248,880. That would be for 24%, right? Almost 250,000. A quarter of a million. A quarter of a million. Not dollars. Go on somewhere. And then we had, what was it, 11 and 8%? Why will you not just let me delete? Come on now. $114,070. That was I'm pretty sure that was our second statistic. 11% had their third, and 8% had 4 or more. Right. That's diabolical. That's downright diabolical. Almost 100,000. 82,960. 82,960, basically 83,000. 83,000 people had 4 or more abortions. 83,000. Yeah, and see, that's exactly it. Exactly. A couple football stadiums full of abortions, 80,000. That's exactly right. Here's the thing. Bob has brought up the most amazing point, and this is a point that I make religiously. In all of these conversations, right? We're talking about 1%, 2%, 8%, 1%, right? Those percentages sound like they're really small. They make it seem like it's not a lot because it is a quote unquote small percentage. But when we're talking 1, 2, 4, 8% of a million, it is still so many babies, right? And I think that a lot of people really need to understand that premise because when we have this discussion, the pro abortionists will tell you time after time, but it's only 2%, but it's only 15%, right? But when we're talking in the millions, that 2 or 8 or 15% still turns out to be thousands, tens of thousands, or hundreds of thousands. So that's a completely legitimate and amazing point. Like, we really need to remember that. And isn't that sick, Dave? That's absolutely crazy, isn't it? So that's really important. Most abortion, this is demographics, most abortion patients are in their 20s, already have had at least one previous child. Interesting part coming here, African American women were more likely to experience abortion, than white women. The language around this is so crazy. They experience abortion. They didn't commit it. They didn't receive it. They didn't seek it out. They experienced it, right? And this is also really important. This is a more liberal leaning publication right here. And the reason I use these sources, as I've said before, is because the liberals have a really hard time combating the liberal sources. Whereas they can say, oh, well, that's from, CNN, a liberal source, not being CNN, obviously, but they can refute the source, right? How are you going to refute sources you yourself would cite? That makes it at least one less contentious thing in the discussion, right? But I despise the language in these sources. Like, they've experienced abortion. What do you mean? Back to the point. Additionally, over 40% of women experiencing abortion are below the poverty line. 40 out of 100 women in 2021 who had an abortion were unmarried. 4 out of 100 were married. 55% of women in 2022 had already had at least one previous birth. In 2022, the majority of abortion patients, more than half, were in their 20s, with the largest number, 33%, being 20 to 24. Women in households with incomes under the federal poverty line experienced more than 41% of all legal abortions. In raw numbers, African Americans were more likely to receive an abortion in 2021. Overall, 30% were white, 42% were black, 22% Hispanic, 7% of other backgrounds. This is crazy to me. Like, Margaret Sanger would be dancing in her grave, right? Like, she would be so happy. That racist eugenicist biatch would be so glad that even after she's gone, she's still one of the leading causes for a black baby to die in America. And isn't that sad? And isn't it so sad that most black liberals will champion abortion when in reality the founder of Planned Parenthood wanted to wipe out black people, anybody basically that wasn't blonde hair and blue eyed, anybody that she deemed mentally quote unquote deficient. I have a live coming up soon just on her and of her many quotes and things. She was horrible. She was horrific. And that's why they quietly removed her and her name off the building, right? What a legacy. Right. Like, geez Louise. Most abortions are being performed early in pregnancy, 93%, increasingly opting for medically induced abortion rather than surgical abortion, which means medication abortion. Medical abortions have increased to 56% of all abortions in 2021, at least for those that have been reported. That's exactly that. Data shows the average gestational age at which abortion occurs has shifted to earlier within the first trimester, likely due in part to the increased availability of medication abortions. You think in 2021 it was seen 90% of abortion occurred by 6 weeks of gestation. I don't know that I believe that. What happened to most women don't even know they're pregnant by 6 weeks. That's why a heartbeat bill would, in effect, end abortion. Like, what? What does this mean? Another 39% occurred between 7 and 9 weeks, and 14% at 10 to 13 weeks. Sadly, 7% of abortions occurred after the first trimester. 7%. 7% of this number. 7% of this number, because I can't do math, 72,590. So almost 73,000, right, occurred after the first trimester. So what they would consider a quote unquote late term abortion. The third one that we just watched, that. These numbers occurred in states without total bans, an increase of 11% from 2020, when the total was 930,160. These counts do not include self-managed abortions. Are y'all hearing me? Such as those obtained using abortion pills mailed from pharmacies outside of the U.S. This is the problem. This is the second biggest problem about these medication abortions. Not even, well, maybe the third. Not even counting the fact that they're incredibly dangerous. It doesn't require you to go in to get an ultrasound to make sure you don't have something like an ectopic pregnancy, in which case taking these medications could kill you. It doesn't take into account the fact that most of these women literally sit on the toilet to expel their poor child that they have murdered. So we're literally flushing dead babies and these chemicals into our sewer systems, and it has actually been found in water treatment plants that will further go on to be in our water, right? And Students for Life, that's one of the links below, and one of the pro-life organizations I staunchly support, literally has been working overtime to make medication abortion a thing of the past. And they have a whole undercover series, it's like 3 or 4 or 5 videos, exposing that the levels that they found in water treatment plants of these medications were higher than you would ever expect. Dangerously high, right? Which is really, really scary, especially in a world where more women are having miscarriages, and we're wondering why infertility is going up, and we're wondering why, gee, I wonder if any of this could have anything to do with it, right? But of course, also, another huge problem with the fact there are pro-life advocates that will swear on a stack of Bibles that they believe abortion numbers are twice as high as is reported because of medication abortion. I don't have trouble believing that. And it's terrifying, right? Because when these people mail the abortion pill from outside the United States, it's certainly not being counted against all these numbers, right? They just admitted it themselves, which is crazy and terrifying. Now, I've already got, I think, 82 screenshots that I have to condense, where I'm going to do a whole presentation on the medication abortion. That was going to be the last part of this live, but I've just decided to go ahead and make an entire video based on the medication abortion, because it's an entirely different subject that requires kind of a deep dive. It's scary. It's dangerous. We need to end it. But that's crazy, right? This increase in national totals appears to be driven by the increase in telehealth or self-administered abortions, medication abortions. The national monthly average number of telehealth abortions in January to March of 2024 is 28% higher than the national monthly average number in telehealth abortions January to March of 2023. These numbers exclude shield laws. Abortion shield laws are states that protect abortion access by protecting abortion providers and patients from legal consequences in states where abortion is restricted or banned. But basically, what that is that they're guessing how many people have gotten the abortion pill, because they don't have to report it, but they know for a fact that the states with shield laws, which would be places like California and New York, those places don't report at all because they don't penalize anyone. They still basically have unfettered abortion. The number of abortion facilities has declined, as well as the overall number of abortion providers. The increase of telehealth and self-administered abortions and shield laws has changed what the availability of abortion by pill looks like across the country. As of 2017, 64% of abortion providing facilities supply abortions up to 11-week gestation. Of facilities that supplied later second trimester abortions, 22% offered abortion up to 20 weeks, and 13% offered abortions beyond 22 weeks. The number of U.S. abortion providing facilities declined 5% 2020 to 2023 from 807 to 765. In the 36 states and the District of Columbia that allow abortions as of March 2024, and this is actually an old number already, 21 more brick-and-mortar clinics were operating than there were in 2023, a 3% increase. Online only or virtual clinics also provide abortion care. The number of virtual clinics in the United States changes frequently, and precise counts are not available. Isn't that crazy? In 2023, nearly 166,000 women seeking abortions traveled out of state to have their abortion. This is an increase of 17%. In 2023, 22 states and DC enacted 129 different measures protecting abortion access. This is the highest number of protections ever enacted in 1 year to give women access to abortions. Well, I wonder why, because that's the year Roe versus Wade was overturned, right? It's not crazy to me that that would occur. Oh, yeah, that too, Bob. Okay, girl. Well, we won't be on here too much longer, but I'll see you again soon. You know I will. I appreciate you, Mary. Thank you for stopping in. Goodness gracious, it's already 12:30. Revenue and cost. Despite falling abortion numbers, revenue for the abortion industry has continued to rise. Of course it has. In 2024, the abortion and family planning industry reported revenue will amount to $4.3 billion, up almost $1 billion from 2017. It is important to note that these numbers include non-abortion products and services. Planned Parenthood has the greatest market share in this industry with $23.4 million in profit. That's so crazy. That's crazy. In 2021, abortion ranged from 565 to 775. That's crazy. Since the overturn of Roe versus Wade, a great number of abortion funds, the independent organizations, have grown or have been created. These funds pay for the cost of abortion services. The funds assist with the cost of medical care, travel, and accommodations if needed. Oh yes, there's websites where you can go and get your abortion funded by a stranger. How crazy is this? This includes travel out of state. Medicare and private insurance provide coverage for some abortions. Oh look, they finally said the quiet part out loud after denying for years that Medicare and Medicaid provided abortion care. That's great. Insurance is also regulated by the laws currently in effect in the state, blah, blah, blah. But it does. The cost of ordering a mail-ordered abortion pill ranges from $28 to $150, depending on whether or not the individual received a clinical consultation with their service. Well, even if you did, you certainly didn't get an ultrasound to make sure you didn't have an ectopic pregnancy, which is incredibly dangerous, right? Fertility and abortion. This is exactly something they have denied for years. 41% of pregnancies in 2019 were reported as unplanned, as the birth rate has continued to slowly decline. The total pregnancy rate reached its lowest level in 2020 with 83 pregnancies for 1,000 women, 15 to 44. The highest rate of pregnancy can be found in the southern parts of the U.S. In 2019, let's go south. In 2019, there was an average of 15% decrease in unintended pregnancies across all demographics. This was seen in a decrease in pregnancies for both women who were married and unmarried. Interesting. And a lot of these women have already had abortions. I wonder if that has anything to do with their fertility. The abortion decision. According to a study by abortion researchers, 4 days passed on average between the time a woman was first suspected of pregnancy to confirm the pregnancy. The median time from confirming the pregnancy to deciding to have an abortion was 0 days. Oh, of course, because you actually confirm your pregnancy and you immediately decide to have an abortion. That makes sense. And the median time from deciding to have an abortion to first attempting to obtain abortion was 2 days. Well, of course, you've got to research where you can get the cheapest one, or if you're in Tennessee, you have to flee somewhere like North Carolina or another surrounding state, right? Minors took a week longer to suspect pregnancy than adults did. Yeah, well, that makes sense because, they're kids. Like, what? 58% of women reported they would have liked to have the abortion earlier. The most common reasons for delay: it took a long time to make arrangements, 59%, to decide, 39%, and to find out about the pregnancy, 36%. Poor women were about twice as likely to be delayed by difficulties in making arrangements. Women's reasons for seeking abortion included, okay, are y'all paying attention? Here we go. Let's get our little highlight here. Women's reasons for seeking abortion included rape and incest, 0.4%. Risk to the woman's life or major bodily function, 0.3%. Less than half of 1% for both of these. Other physical health concerns, 2.2%. Abnormality in the unborn baby, 1.2%. I wonder what abnormality is. It's probably any little thing that they would like to call an abnormality. But let's just go ahead and get on to the more substantial part, right? Elective and unspecified reasons, 95.9%. Basically 96%. Of course they were. Of course they were. And this is exactly the point that everybody makes about the exceptions, right? This means that common exceptions to abortion limits are estimated to account for less than 5% of all abortions. Thank you very much. 38% of women indicate the father of the baby was the most influential person in their abortion decision. 57% of women who obtained an abortion experienced a potentially traumatic life event in the 12 months leading up to their abortion. The most common factors included unemployment, a breakup, or falling behind on rent or mortgage. Interesting. The number of millennials that find themselves with less restrictive views on abortion has been rising. In 2017, 49% of millennials said they would support a ban on abortions after 20 weeks of pregnancy if it were enacted in their state. However, now in 2021, 61% of young adults said they believed abortion should be legal in all or most cases, while only 39% said it should be illegal or restricted in all or most cases. That's crazy. High school students are having less sexual intercourse, but that doesn't mean they're having less sex. 23% of Gen Z believe abortion is wrong. 76% believe abortion should be legal in all or most cases. That is insanity. Really? Really? 76%. In 2021, 30% of teens nationwide had never engaged in sexual intercourse. This is almost more than a 20% decrease over the last several decades. Reports in 2021 state there is a decrease of Gen Z students having unprotected sex, 7.9% versus 12.7% previously. 21% of Gen Z believe sex before marriage is morally wrong, an increase from 19% of millennials. And here is some adoption information. Adoption rates have decreased according to the most recent data collection. This is most likely impacted by COVID. Adoption is also not seen by individuals as a suitable avenue to pursue over abortion. Are you for real right now? There was a 13% decrease in adoptions nationally in 2020. In one study, it was found participants said that choosing adoption would mean abandoning their parental duty. I'm going to read that again. In one study, it was found that participants said that choosing adoptions would mean abandoning their parental duty. They see adoption as abandonment, but abortion is acceptable. These are the people we're dealing with. Just so you know. I mean, I really cannot. I don't think I could carry a child to term, deliver it, and then just kind of hand it on to someone else. I think at that time, if I'm making that decision to keep the baby instead of having an abortion, I think it's then up to me to be the parent. Y'all, you can't make this shit up. It makes crazy. Really? Really? I don't think I could carry a child, birth it, and just give it to someone else. But I do think while it's in the womb, I could dismember it. That would be fine. These are the kids that'll be running our country one day. I mean, is anyone else a little bit scared? Make the math here. Attitudes toward abortion. Americans increasingly believe abortion should be legal in at least some circumstances, but nearly half still personally view it as morally wrong. Fewer Americans viewing abortion as a moral issue, and the percent who consider it morally wrong has also declined. In 2024, 50% of people said having an abortion depended on the situation, whether it would be a moral decision. 35% of Americans also expressed the opinion that the abortion should be legal in all or most cases in 2024. 12% said it should be illegal in all circumstances, which has been a growing decline. Gestational plays a large role in Americans' view of abortion legality. In 2024, 69% of Americans felt abortion should be generally legal in the first trimester, but the percentage dropped to 37% for the second trimester and only 2% for the third trimester. Interesting. 42% of women, 58% of men, 44% of individuals 18 to 29, 55% 30 to 49, and 50% 50 and older. 56% of Protestants, 54 Catholics, and overall sample average of 48% say abortion is wrong. Very interesting. More than 4 in 10 women who have had an abortion were churchgoers when they ended pregnancy. That's a huge opportunity for the church to have an impact on those decisions, said Scott McDonald, executive director of Lifeway Research. But only 7% of women said they discussed their abortion decision with anyone at church. 3/4 or 7% say the church had no influence on their decision to terminate a pregnancy. We've got 70% of women who had an abortion indicate their religious preference is Christian. 27% Catholic, 26% Protestant, and 15% were non-denominational. Christians, where are we at, y'all? What are we doing, guys? Like, where do we stop gap here, right? I know a lot of people also identify as Christian who, you know, just because they grew up Christian or whatever, but come on now. 35% of Christian women who had an abortion go to church. 36% of women attending a Christian church once a month or more at the time of their first abortion. As women considered their abortion decision, the most typical reaction or expectations from a local church were judgment, 33%, or condemning, 26%. Okay, I mean, yeah, like the way that these people phrase that as if you're going to go to a church, tell them you're considering abortion, and not get a side eye is crazy. Now, I think this is also a really good opportunity for the church to say, hey, listen, don't do that. We're going to help you. This is literally supposed to be one of the main purposes of the church. What do you mean? Judgment and condemnation. What about adoption? Why don't you say, hey, listen, we know this rich couple over here who has always wanted a baby. Why don't we hook y'all up? Like, what do you mean right now? Oh, I know that's right, Dave. I know that's right. 51% of women agree the churches do not have a ministry prepared to discuss options in an unplanned pregnancy. Well, how many options is a Christian ministry supposed to give a woman? I mean, can we be so for real right now? In 2024, 91% of self-identified evangelicals who attend church once or twice per month strongly agree in the statement, abortion is a sin. American religious groups vary widely in their view of abortion. 53% of those who are part of the mainland Protestant tradition say abortion should be illegal in all or most cases, with 45% in support of keeping abortion legal. About quarters of evangelical Protestants think abortion should be illegal, 73%. By contrast, 86% 88% of religiously unaffiliated Americans say abortion should be legal in all or most cases. Whew. As do 71% of Black Protestants, 64% of white non-evangelical Protestants, and 59% of Catholics. The Catholic Church's like spearheading of abortion has been absolutely wild to me. Like the way that they have so clearly become an LGBTQIA plus strong Wi-Fi password community and abortion pushers is kind of making me ill. I'm not gonna lie, kind of making me crazy. Oh, I'm 100% with you on that, Dave. I'm also terrified. Like, these are our future. What do you mean? All right, we're going to have to end here, so I suppose I'm going to have to do a part 2. I went off on a bit of a tangent. I'm going to have to do a long-form video of this and get good at editing. So this right here, and you can go to the and find this fella. It's a link in the description. This is a status of the abortion bans in the U.S. as of September 2025. So this is pretty recently updated. I don't think that there's been any more legislation that's happened recently. So abortion is banned in all of the red states, right? These kind of dark orange here. Oh, let me mouse over it. Where'd you go? How did I do that before? Hello? This one? That's the gestational limit between 6 and 12 weeks, aka post-heartbeat ban. 18 and 22 weeks. That's crazy. That's insane. Gestational limit at or near viability. That's 21 plus weeks. Or no gestational limit. Now that is wild. That's crazy. So we can come over here. We can see state by state. Current gestational limit is fetal viability in California because their state constitution protects the right to abortion. Isn't that crazy? Oregon state has no gestational limit. Period. No gestational limit. We don't need that, right? Like, what do you mean? In Wisconsin, gestational limit is 22 weeks. Because, of course, they changed their constitution. What about Texas? Pre-Roe ban in effect had previously been blocked by courts, but state Supreme Court allowed it to go into effect July 1st, 2022. State trigger law went into effect August 25th, 2022. Trigger law increases the criminal and civil penalties associated with abortion. And yet none of these states, this has been a point of contention, right? None of these states are really punishing people for the abortion pill, which is really upsetting. No, that's Michigan. Oh, okay. I see what's going on. A great state of Ohio, 22 weeks. All right. My great state of Tennessee, state trigger law in effect as of August 25th, 2022, 30 days after SCOTUS judgment. However, here's the thing that you're not going to see all over the mainstream media, right? Is there's another, hold on, let me see if I can find interstate. Oh, yeah. Where? I'm looking, they have all these types of maps. They show you interactive maps here on kff.org. And it's like rape and incest exceptions, right? Criminal penalties. And I'm looking for one. Key facts on abortion. Oh, medication abortion regimens. Interesting. Oh, okay. Availability of telehealth for medication abortion in post-dog states. Interesting. Okay. I was looking for, see, this is just kff.org. The dashboard is really interesting to go through because you just get so much information, right? The majority of states have at least one restriction on health insurance coverage for abortion services. So this very top one here, Medicaid, private, and marketplace limitations, which would mean like, limitations to government insurance, basically. Medicaid and marketplace, that would be me. There's my state. Medicaid limitations only. Marketplace limitations only. Look at you, the lone one. Requires abortion coverage in Medicaid. California and New York are on there. Surprise, surprise. No coverage limitations. Yeah, not surprised there either. It's got all of this great information. Um, Hyde Amendment. The Hyde Amendment is supposed to keep us from having these medication abortions, but we see that didn't happen. But anyway, this KFF.org is one of my top statistic sources, right? And it's got so many things. Look at these graphs and stuff. You've got all types of infographics. I mean, just absolutely loaded with information. I was looking, there's a map that shows where the exceptions are made for life of the mother. There's like an exceptions map, and it proves that every single state has a life-saving measure, and I think like 40 states have a life of the mother exception. Tennessee is in fact one of them, but none for rape or incest or fatal fetal anomaly. So that's the big difference, and that's why a whole lot of people are real big mad, is that they don't have all of the exceptions. Even if we accepted the exceptions, like I said, it would be a huge win, in my opinion. Oh, well, that's kind of sad to think about, Bob. I understand where you're coming from, but no limits. Oh, I love you guys. Get off my lawn. I know that's right. Come over to East Tennessee. So, did we like this format a little bit better? Did we oh yeah, I had this guy. I had these guys prepared, and I totally forgot. That's a fact sheet. And then kff.org is the one that I was using to show you guys all these. kff.org is absolutely amazing. So did we like this format? What do you guys think? Did we enjoy this? Why, thank you, Bob. I'm definitely going to try and do like a long form video, do some editing and whatnot, have more notes. Although I had all of my sources pulled up, I did not do like a whole outline like I normally do, which kind of made me go all over the place. And I think doing more of a long form video would also kind of keep me on track, because one of the things I do get super distracted by is our lovely community in the comments. I love you guys so much, and I wouldn't change that for the world. It just, I can't always get to all the points I want to get to and kind of have an organized flow if I'm reading comments. But I love to read your comments, and I love that it does steer the conversation sometimes. So I think that the only solution would be make some long form videos and do some live streams. I mean, I feel like that's fair. But I so appreciate that you guys came and hung out with me. I think that this is a really, really important discussion. I think that this is one of the most important conversations we can have. And I think I've provided you guys with some really great resources. You could even just, if you're trying to have this discussion with someone and, don't know where to start. Oh, and I forgot to put Created Equal also in there. I didn't actually use anything from their site today, but createdequal.org is another great site, period. And it, here. I've mentioned them many times. Createdequal.org, perfect. And Created Equal, they do have the abortion photos. So beware, that is a thing. But they also have all sorts of things, all sorts of sources, information, infographics. They have brochures and flyers you can print out. They have a whole tab of icebreakers that you can use to start a conversation with the quote unquote choice, aka pro-abortion people in your life. They have all sorts of amazing resources, just period. And I really enjoy going over there as well. But there's a great in the comments, in the description, there's a wonderful list of sources down there that you can also send people if you're just wanting them to take a look at something or trying to have a discussion based on fact. That'd be a good place to start. Is any of those sites are going to be very. I picked, if you go and visit them, you can see I kind of picked from all points. There's left leaning, there's right leaning, or should I say conservative and liberal, and there's very centrist sources. I like to pick a little bit of everything, but when it's, like I said, if I'm going to be using it like I did today, I tend to use the more liberal sources just for the fact that it's harder to argue from a liberal's perspective anyway. So anyway, I'll be back soon. And, maybe tomorrow. I don't know. We'll have to see. I'm probably not going to be doing a whole lot next week because I have a few appointments and the kids will be home for a day, etc. But, oh my gosh. Sorry, I'm getting a phone call. But I will certainly be back soon. And we'll definitely have to do a part 2 on this soon. And I hope to see you guys again. I'll try to give you a little bit more warning, like a post about it or something before I just come on. And I hope to see y'all some more then. And I love you so much. And until next time, y'all, take care of yourselves again and each other. Love you so much. Love you, Bob. Love you, Dave. Love you, Barbie. Love you, Bobby, if you're still in here. Love y'all who all showed up to have a discussion. Thank you so much.